joining the Loudr Lawyer Network, the podcast where we sit down with the law firm owners, attorneys, and visionaries that are making the most noise in the legal landscape nationwide to find out the secrets to their success. Other podcasts think they're getting loud, but we're getting louder. Let's get into it.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Loudr Lawyer Network, where we help attorneys scale to $1 million months through powerful connections and strategies. I'm Rajay, I'm your host, and we got a wonderful man here today, Brennan Heuser. Brennan, welcome to Loudr Lawyer Network, man.
Thanks for having me on, Rajay. Really appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Hey, your story, I was looking at your story, man, and it really interests me in many ways. I mean, I look at the fact that you were college, and from college, you made the decision to go straight into the military, where most people, you know, go on about their careers and things of that nature. But
Yeah.
Take me back to the moment before you ever decided you wanted to be an attorney, and what did that look like?
I swore I would never be an attorney growing up. I remember working, coming into my dad's office and seeing all the paperwork. It's like, nah, I'm not doing that. That's not for me. But I remember I went to the University of Miami, graduated, and didn't have much of a plan. So I moved back up with my mom in DC, and I was working at a think tank downtown there. This is like 2006, 2007. And it was really tough to get a job. If you don't have some, high level connection in DC, or you don't have some graduate degree, you don't speak a foreign language, you don't have a security clearance, it's really a rough place to be. And I also really wanted to serve the country. So that's the think tank I was working for was very much focused on anti-terrorism. It was called the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. So they kind of counseled me, and I tried to go the officer route because I had my college degree, and I was surprised because this is 2007. This is the height of the war. They were giving out, $50,000, $60,000 bonuses to guys to sign up. Wow. All the reservists were called, and I don't have a background in the military. My family didn't do the military, and I don't think I answered all their questions properly. I didn't come in there looking very straight edged. I had been in Miami for 4 years.
Right. And Miami's a whole different lifestyle.
Yeah, it is. But then, I get rejected from it, and I was a bit discouraged. And then I decide, you know what? There's this other route.
I got rejected from the officer program?
The officer program.
Wow.
And I had good grades and all of that stuff. No, like criminal background or anything. Like I was good to go. But I was in good shape and all that. But I got rejected from it. Mm-hmm. So that threw me off a bit. My recruiter was pissed because he was telling me it was a slam dunk. I think they get
you in.
Yeah. But there's a way to get in to the Army. I actually think it's a pretty good way to do it. When you enlist, you can actually pick your job. When you go the officer route, you can ask for a certain job, but you don't necessarily get it. Now, when you enlist, you still have to pass all the qualifications. So right. I found this job, psychological operations, PSYOP. Like even the name sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
what is psychological?
So, the nice term for it is hearts and minds, but there's all types of PSYOP. If you want to go back to some really extreme versions of it, that shock and awe campaign that they did in 2003 when they were bombing Baghdad, big scale stuff. You had special operations take out Noriega, I think 1989 in Panama. And the PSYOP team there had loudspeakers and lights, and they just blasted Metallica and AC/DC on repeat for about 72 hours and drove that man insane. There's also certain things you see in the news that you don't realize are PSYOP related. Remember when that statue came down of Saddam Hussein?
Right.
That was a PSYOP team, and then they messed up a bit because they put the U.S. flag over, and then someone's like, "Hey, no, put the Iraqi flag on instead." So they pulled it down and put that other flag.
Wow.
On. But the essence of it is really persuade, change, and influence people without killing them, which is a pretty good way to fight.
Yeah, getting inside their head.
Yeah, and it's at the individual level, and it's at broad scale. So you're dealing with one person, maybe a small group. You're also dealing with like mass media. So you really learn a lot about marketing, communications, what resonates with people, storytelling, and that's it's tough to do storytelling in a foreign country where you don't know all the history,
Right.
and all the narratives or the mediums, the media that they use, and NATO really struggled with that for a long time. I think they did to the end, honestly.
Right. So here you are. I'm listening to you right now. You jump into the military.
Yeah.
Nobody else in your family has ever been that. You're the one in the family that's just went out.
Yeah, I really did want to serve. At the time, I don't feel I don't have the same, I guess, worldview as I used to. But at the time, I was a big supporter of that war, and I wanted to back it up and not just write papers or research. I wanted to actually be on the ground. When I tried to do the officer thing, my first choice was officer or infantry. Second choice was armor, but that didn't work out. I wanted to fight.
Wow. When I read your story about where you went, that decision you made from college, it brought me back to Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman, he left the NFL. I was looking at, here you are with a great college degree and everything, and route already paved out for you, but you were so passionate you just went in. And I immediately thought about the Pat Tillman story.
Yeah, that guy is another tier than me. But I think there's a lot of good that can come from serving, and I would never take anything back. I had a rough time. It was not easy deployments. I was on 4 different teams, but I had a really fascinating job. You're with different types of people from all over the country. You really get close to these guys, and I loved it. What I didn't like is jumping out of airplanes. I hate that. And
jumping out of airplanes too?
I'm terrified of heights. But I had to do that to get qualified to be airborne, and I got my airborne tab there. I'm proud of it.
I see it, man. I see you.
But yeah, that was scary. And the first jump I ever did, I was the first guy, and the first guy in line is just looking at the ground.
How high up were you?
You're pretty close to the ground, about 1,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's not high up. I think you might feel safer if you were higher up and it didn't feel so real. But I don't know if I blacked out every time I jumped, but it automatically pulls the cord for you. But I do know that every time when my chute deployed, I'd be twisted up, and then you have to pull the cords apart and kick your legs, and then so I would just be twirling down, and then you hit the ground about 22 feet per second. These were the World War II parachutes. They hadn't upgraded at the time, so yeah, it was not fun. But some people loved it. It's just not my thing.
So here you are. You're in the military now, removed from college. You do your tours. Take me back to the moment when you decided you were going to follow, because you mentioned something about I saw something about you. I saw a podcast. I don't know which one it was, but you were talking about like what your father had done. So how how did the firm, tell me how that all came together and where you made the decision to go into law?
Yeah. So when I got out of the Army, I went back to DC again. I went back to grad school. Um, and then I ended up getting a job with the State Department downtown there. I really didn't like dealing with civilian bureaucracy. That was driving me crazy. I was also having some pretty bad PTSD. So I was looking to change things. It's also expensive in DC. You know,
Mm,
uh, ended up moving from downtown out to Germantown, Maryland, and that's a long commute. So um, I ended up talking to my dad, like, what do you think I should do here? He's like, you know, we have a law firm, son, and we is my uncle and my dad. It's like,
right.
okay, I'll check it out. And I remember I came out and visited, and there's a lot of overlap when you're not just an attorney, but when you're running a business. There's
Right.
that adrenaline rush. There's that marketing aspect of it. So that's kind of where PSYOP principles come into play. There's the persuasion and the influence of being an attorney, dealing with people of all walks of life. You got to really understand where they're coming from. You have to understand juries, all of that. It seemed like a pretty good fit. So, I had a conversation with my wife, and she's like, "Okay, let's do it." And moved out to Colorado, 2016.
Wow. And just jumped into the family business right away.
Yeah,
Uh, Tell me about your first case. What was that? What was that like? When you got your first case,
yeah.
right? You took on the first case. Tell me what that feeling was like, and how did that help you in terms of you mentioned PTSD that you were having.
Yeah.
How did that affect? How does
So
that affect you moving forward?
so I guess if, with PTSD, I just would be very hyper concerned about making a mistake. And I
Mm,
thought a lot in law school. It carried over when I had just started practicing. And my initial experience was mostly workers' compensation. And that's where everything, they don't have jury trials, but it's a hearing, and you have depositions and experts, and you're just talking before a judge.
So you started out in workman's comp.
Mostly work comp. I did some PI cases, but you really get your is it teeth sharp doing work comp. It's kind of trial by ambush. They're a bit loosey goosey in
Mhm.
what they allow in, and you're not quite sure what to expect all the time. So it's a good way to get some experience. But I was nervous, like anything, when you're doing something for the first time.
Right.
Um, I remember I would write out every question, and I would think, okay, what could they possibly say? And the problem with that is you become, beholden to this checklist of questions,
Right.
and you lose sight of that bigger picture. And I've seen that with other aspects of law when I became a managing partner and we're trying to implement, standardized procedure in the firm. You have staff that just focus on checking the box on the task that needs to be done without looking at solving the problem. It's
Right.
similar to how I think a lot of doctors feel frustrated because they have these medical treatment guidelines, and insurance companies are kind of dictating what they can and can't do, and they can't use their professional judgment to provide the best service to their patient, which would mean curing or treating them in the most effective way. So you do want to have those standardized systems, but you also want to keep the big picture in mind. So once I got over that nervousness, I snapped out of it, and the mission is ultimately putting the client in a better place, and that means getting them healthy. But that's our priority: getting them healthy, getting them good care, but also money. I mean, they want to be compensated too. So those two things, and treated with respect.
Right. I like how you said the mission. It's like that part of the military is embedded in you. You're there. It shows in your disposition, even how you're presenting yourself right now, which is a beautiful thing. It's like you're focused on on what's important, and what's important is your client. That's how it comes off. That's how it comes off.
Well, there's a lot of noise, and you got to find that proper signal, the correct signal, and hone in on that. And the law is gray. It's cutthroat, especially in Southern Colorado. It's one of the most competitive for personal injury firms, I think, in the country. Um, but we've been around for a long time, and I credit my dad and my uncle for that.
How long have you guys been around?
So the firm was founded in 1996. They each separately had been practicing before in Colorado Springs, but it was 100,000 people or 80,000 people in the 50s, 60s when they were growing up, and now it's 800,000 approximately. So they kind of grew up with the town, and
so you guys are like the foundation of the town almost.
It's the OGs, attorneys at Colorado Springs, some of the first on TV and all of that. So
wow,
yeah,
that's awesome. Tell me, since you've been practicing, what was your hardest case to date, and how did that affect you moving forward, and how you took on clients?
The hardest cases that I have are when people are severely injured and there's no money to go after. There's not enough. And that's tough when you have someone who's paralyzed and by a drunk driver, and there's no insurance to go after. There's no assets to pursue. Maybe they have their own uninsured motorist policy of $25,000, but then they're not made whole, and they don't feel very good walking away. No one does, because how could you? That's tough. So how I deal with that is you got to manage expectations up front. And I say there's three things you need for a successful personal injury case. One is liability. You got to be able to prove that the other person was at fault. Two, you actually have to be hurt. And just because your car's jacked up doesn't mean you're physically messed up. Third, there needs to be a pot of money or insurance to go after. If you don't have those three things, you got a problem. And I think if you can break things down in a just regular language, I don't understand why lawyers use overly complicated terminology, and they get so granular in how they try to explain things to people. These are just regular people looking for help. You don't want to go in and talk to your doctor and they start saying, well, the etiology of this symptom is most likely to no, just like, what do I have and what can I expect going forward? What's this process going to look like? And if you're straight with them and honest, I think that helps.
I'm sitting here like thinking about what you just said about like someone being hurt, and you having to let them know that there's no money for you, and these people, they don't have any more resources. Like you mentioned someone's paralyzed. Did that actually, can you talk about that case?
So the worst one I had was worse than, I was a little boy that was killed, and he was run over by a truck. And I remember I drove up to, I think it was Breckenridge, and I met with the family, and that still just sits with me, having that conversation and signing the case. And given what happened, I had a hunch that there wasn't going to be much. It happened in the trailer park, and I didn't think there was going to be much of a policy. It was a teenager who I think maybe stole the car, the truck from his dad or something. And we got him a recovery. We cut our fee, but that's just hard. They were thankful, but this is real life stuff. This is real hard, and that was within the first month that I started.
Wow.
I went and at least talked to them, and they became a client. But really tough. Or sometimes you work with clients for a couple years, and they're really hurt. You get to know them really well, And I remember this guy, he was run over by a truck that was in a repair shop, and it was rolling backwards, and he went to try to stop it because it was going to crash. He opened the door and he got caught, and then from head to toe was run over, and just really hurt. And he was a good guy. He didn't do anything wrong, and it's tough when because you know then he ends up dying from the injury, and he didn't have any family, he didn't have any friends, he was lonely. And you get close to these people because we do care about them.
Right. No, man,
There's an emotional toll to this. So that PTSD thing, um, you know, I think I see PTSD as a sign that you're a healthy human being, because if you're going through really horrible situations and you walk away unscathed, I think there's something wrong with you.
right. Right.
I'm not- it-
Absolutely. You have to be connected. And when things happen to people, it's good to see someone like you. Here you are. You're in the field to help individuals, but you take it a step further with the emotion and the connection and really caring about the human being. And I mean, that's rare, and I think that's how it should be. And is that a way that clients have came to you because of your
yeah.
connection, how you
I think even before me, the firm's motto has always been very relationship and people centric. And we do care about this community. We do care about our clients. We'll go out of our way to put people in a better spot. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. But a lot of the people that call us just know us from reputation in town.
Mm,
We do TV, we do YouTube, we do all types of heavy marketing, but our bread and butter clients, the ones that really just call us regularly, are ones that just know us, or have a friend who knows us, and that network that you build up and through trust and results.
right. Now, you talked about being in Colorado, so you're in the state of Colorado. Are you just in that little town, or do you get clients that hear about the reputation, hear about what you're doing, and you have other people that flock to you?
So we're Colorado Springs, and then Pueblo. That's the second biggest city in southern Colorado. A lot of these smaller towns on the periphery there. Uh, yeah, we get some people up in Denver, but that's not really our focus. We really do want to keep it local. When I say it's not our focus, it's just we don't actively market up in that area. We don't have an office there. Um, but I do.
What's the distance between Denver and Colorado? I went to Aurora one time, so I was in
Yeah.
Aurora, and I was in Denver, so I know it's like a jump. I mean, how big of a distance is it in terms of, because what from what I see, what I looked at your firm and hearing you right now, I mean, you roll that message out across the state of Colorado, man. They're gonna want that. They're
Yeah.
gonna want what you guys provide.
And we've looked at that, and it's definitely something that's on the table. But I think if you're going to grow, you want to grow smart, and you want to make sure that you're in the place to scale. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. And maybe that's coming sooner rather than later. But I do think
Hearing you right now, I'm just speaking out on it. Hearing where you are right now and what you're doing, I know over here at Louder Media, it's about taking a story like yours and being able to work with you and help grow that right there, because the compassion that you have for people and the backstory is all there. You
yeah,
know, it's all there, and I think that sitting here face to face with you right now, speaking and seeing you can see in your eyes, man, the care that you have. You know, you're articulate, and you see you reflecting, and I just think that's a beautiful thing. I just think it's a beautiful thing.
I appreciate that. And I'm excited for the future, Rajay. I really am. I think it's bright, and I'm having fun doing this. And it doesn't, that makes all the difference, right? I'm having fun. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for sure. But that optimism, that hope for a future, um, it's definitely there. And I think people can sense that. And they want to be a part of that, and they want to be served like that. Especially you have all this AI stuff coming out, and you have all these stuffy attorneys in suits. It doesn't need to be that way. I think people.
So you leading me to right to what I wanted to ask you. So you've been in there. You talked about the competition.
Yeah.
In a short radius of the state of Colorado being one of the toughest in the PI world in the United States. What is the biggest myth that is happening with the PI attorney world that you think needs to either be done with, or what's true, what's not true?
Yeah. One of the biggest myths is ambulance chaser. Everyone's like, "Oh, you guys are ambulance chasers. You're just looking to make a buck off of some hurt person." And I don't really. I do know the history of it. There's a big lobbying campaign by insurance companies, and when I hear that, it's like, so is it better if I just denied you treatment and care and compensation at being on the insurance side? Because I'm really fighting for my clients to get not just money in their pocket, but also medical care, and the medical care covered. So I disagree with that aspect of it. It was very successful lobbying campaign there. Another one is that all these firms are doing really well. I think PI firms are failing at a very high rate, especially in saturated markets. Some firms will have a big one big case, and then they project how they're going to grow based off of one case, and then those other cases don't come in, and they end up closing down. So to be around for 10, 20, 30 years, you really got to have something solid in place. It's not that you can't do it, but it's tough.
Being where you are, like when your firm started, when your dad and uncle started the firm, did they specifically go out into the PI, or were there moments before in criminal or anything of that nature?
They did everything. They were just trying to get a name for themselves. They were doing criminal defense, trust and estates, divorce, some business, corporate law. I mean, anything they could just get some experience from,
right?
Each kind of separately, and then they decided to kind of come together and start Heuser and Heuser. And they each have different strengths. My uncle is extremely, I'd say, brilliant on rules, procedures, the intricacies of the law. My dad has since passed, but he was the storyteller.
Oh, and, my condolences.
Yeah, but that storytelling and the ability, it was so cool seeing him in depositions with an opposing expert or a defendant. He would just talk to them like a normal person. It wasn't personal. It really did actually want to get to know about him. And then to see him in trial and how he could just absolutely captivate everybody's attention. And he would always give these examples. He would tell you a long story just as a kind of test when you came into his office, and he goes, "And what color were those guys' shoes?" And if you remembered, that was a good story because he did something to emphasize it. And
Wow.
And those little details through stories can stay ingrained in you, and that helps when you're trying to fight over little details in court.
Right. So have you taken a case to court yet where you've had to go to trial and kind of stepped into your dad's shoes in that storytelling? Because I see it in you.
So it's mostly been work comp. And what's interesting about PI is it's, and I don't know what it looks like for the future of trial attorneys, because at this point there's a ton of risk going to trial for the client in particular, because if you lose as the client, you may have to pay the other side's cost if there's a statutory offer settlement.
Wow.
Getting kind of boring there with the nuance, but what I see my role as in this firm is I'm not the best attorney, Rajay. I have people on my team that are better than me. And if you are the smartest person in the room as a leader, you've done something wrong. I want to surround myself with people that have 30, 40 years of experience.
Mm.
And we have that. We also have some young bucks that are really motivated, and you want that energy too. So it's kind of like building a team and recruiting. So, I don't ever see myself being an elite trial attorney, but I don't think that's my role. I have two other partners, and we recruit very, very selectively for who we want on our team to make sure that we're on the same page and have the same goal and mission.
Right. Wow, man, that's leadership. I was talking to an attorney the other day, talking about, it sounds like the shift. So you're able to shift responsibility and stay in a role to where you're comfortable, your strengths.
Yeah, and you want to know enough about each role and position and the law to be able to make proper decisions, strategic ones. But there's some lawyers that just love going to court all day long. That's who I want on my team, because I don't really want to be in court all day long, every single day. But if someone loves that and that's their gift, let's bring them on board.
If you were to look back, say 15, 20 years ago, when you were first coming in, from what you know right now,
Yeah.
or a young buck walks into your office and is getting started, what advice would you give them or give yourself back then, that since you've learned today that you didn't have then?
First, no one fully knows what they're doing. A lot of people are faking it. Everything in the law is gray, and it depends answer. And find your own style, find your own voice, and your own approach to things. When I was telling you earlier, when I started with that long script, just because I was going with my uncle, and he was ask all these questions, and I relied on that. Once I was able to have my own style and approach and kind of break that, I felt more comfortable. So find who you are as an attorney. Everyone has different approaches. I had someone tell me there's red attorneys and there's blue attorneys.
Right.
The red ones are the really charismatic. They're just waving their hands. They're walking around. They're yelling at points. And then you have kind of the assassin blue attorneys. They don't move. They stay at the podium. It's 5 questions. They're done. They got what they needed, and they're out. And it's interesting to see that different style, because it's very true.
Red and blue. Never thought about it like that. That's interesting.
But the red ones are always on TV. The blue ones aren't very, very captivating, but they get what they need, and you don't realize it until it's too late.
As you guys have been growing, as your firm's been growing, what type of things have you done in terms of marketing to get yourselves out there?
So we always did kind of traditional TV, and I think there's value to that in a smaller area. But we tried to expand, so we're on YouTube, and then really every social media platform there is. I want to be everywhere, but you also got to be authentic, and there's a branding principle called 1 of 2. So there's you, and then there's everybody else. And when you're driving down the road and there's 50 billboards of typically just white guys in suits, and then there's you in a hoodie or whatever it may be. That stands out, and that's honestly who I am. I hate wearing a suit.
Hey man, come on. I couldn't get my proper. I had a hoodie today that I was gonna wear, man.
Yeah. So, but some people can pull it off, and they're comfortable doing that. If you can do that well and really differentiate yourself, lean into that. And what I like about our firm is I got my uncle who he's like the wise sage, and he's been doing this forever, and he brings a different perspective. We have another young woman, Shannon, and she started as a paralegal or legal assistant and a paralegal. And that background is critical because she understands what the staff are doing. Lawyers don't know how to file things. Lawyers don't. It's amazing how much or how little lawyers know about the practical aspect of doing law. So when you have someone that has worked their way up from an entry level position in the firm,
Right.
then attorney, then partner, that's a pretty cool dynamic.
And it's a good atmosphere for you guys to have someone in there to grow from within.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful building block.
it is.
Yes, sir.
And we're all real direct with each other, and that's kind of one of our core values is radical honesty, and that's with clients. It's also with each other, and we tell you the truth, even if you don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I saw also on your uh on your uh on your site, you guys do a lot of slip and falls because I figure you guys got a lot of snow out there.
Yeah, we do. The snow ones can be tricky because you're in Colorado, and the jury's it's kind of the shit happens defense. Like, yeah, it was icy on the road because it was a blizzard. Um, but yeah, the slip and falls for sure. Um,
I mean, it's like when you go to a store, it got me thinking about this. When you go to a store and they say like wet floor, just
yeah,
mop. So how does that work? If someone doesn't put it, do you have to put up a sign to
yeah.
let them
So
know there? If the sign is there, then it's on that person that's walking, or how does that work?
if you're a store owner, that's the property owner. Your customers would be classified. It's called invitee, and you have a duty to keep the premises safe for known and unknown dangers, which means you have an affirmative duty to actually inspect on a regular basis for whatever's reasonable. So a lot of these stores, I'm just say Safeway or that's why they have people on regular fixed schedules walking up and down the aisles, making sure that something didn't spill. Um, but yeah, if something's identified, they should do something to mitigate the risk. Put up a sign, clean it up, um, remedy it, and quite often they don't. Not quite often, but sometimes they don't, and that's when you'd have a case in that type of situation.
So, in other words, if someone was walking through the door and there's like black ice outside, the store owner has to be able to know that there's black ice or the potential of ice there, go out and put hot
They
water.
actually need to be looking for it. So
Wow.
if it weren't, it's different if it say a licensee, which is you just have to um, check for known dangers. Um, so depending on why you're on the property, are you doing some mutual business business transaction? Are you a social guest, which is a licensee? If you're a trespasser, there's even a lower duty. So all this type of analysis and a lot of the arguments focus on what's the classification of the person on the property. Maybe you have people over to your house and you're having cocktails or beer. That's what we do out in Colorado. But you're talking business. Are you an invitee or a social guest licensee with the lower duty? So it gets pretty nuanced there.
Wow, that's technical. I've never heard it quite put that way.
Yeah. So you can't set traps for people. You
Right.
can't do like bear traps and stuff, even for trespassers. So
Right. No, I totally understand that. Um, When you hear the term Loudr Lawyer, what does a Loudr lawyer be to you?
Someone who is loud is someone who's themselves, because when you're yourself, some people aren't going to like you. And that differentiates, that authenticity. And in the age of AI, when everyone is either using this robotic output that has no soul to it, they can't embrace who they are. You don't need to be someone else. You know, if you're a suit, you like suits, be a suit. You can be loud that way, or you can be loud another way. Just be authentic. And I think authenticity, especially with all of this AI coming out, is going to carry people forward. The people who fail to figure out who they are, and they just want to go with trends and change from day to day, they're going to fall behind. That's not a loud lawyer. That's someone that's lost in the noise.
Yeah. And we at Loudr, we look at a loud lawyer like people like you. Like, you're loud in terms of how you care for people, right? It shows with your actions.
Yeah.
You know, what you shared. Also bringing community together.
Right.
Support, doing charity in the community, like sponsoring the local soccer team, if you will. Things of that nature. Just those things that rally around your business, you know, supporting. I don't know if you guys have like bowling night. Maybe you have a bowling league that you sponsor.
Yeah, no, we do. We sponsor. We have some staff members that have, you know, their kids' wrestling team, high school wrestling team. We'll sponsor that. It's not a big marketing thing, but it supports the community. And when you do that consistently, when you actually follow through on, you say you really want to help people, if you mean it, it breaks through the noise. That's a loud lawyer.
Right. Hey, I love that. Hey, Brennan, why don't you leave the people your info and how they can get a hold of you?
Our website is heuserlaw.com, HEUSER law.com. We're on every social media platform, so you can find us on Meta, LinkedIn, X, Blue Sky, whatever. I mean, we're on everything, TikTok. But yeah, heuserlaw.com is the best way, and all the links are on the website there.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. I really enjoyed talking to you. Like, I'm sitting here just listening and looking at you, and you're very articulate, very diligent in how you can feel your compassion coming through. And I appreciate you being a guest here on Loudr Lawyer Network.
Well, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for serving our country, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for being a part of the Loudr Lawyer Network. If you're enjoying the conversation, let us know. Give us a like and subscribe to never miss a thing. We'll see you next time right here on the Loudr Lawyer Network.